Because you walk in the world of physicality and energy, you have power to say no to spirit. You have power to block out energy. You have power to set boundaries in energy more than you probably even realize that you do. Welcome to the Story of Spirit podcast, where practical spirituality meets real life. Hello, and I'm your host, Sheetal Story, a psychic medium, grief support counselor, professional astrologer, human design reader, and a law of attraction master coach. With my unique blend of spiritual and practical tools, I am here to help you align with your soul-led purpose and ignite a life that sets your soul on fire. In this podcast, we are going to explore the principles of energy, astrology, spirituality, and psychology to help you heal your grief and create an aligned life and business from the inside out. Whether you are looking to deepen your intuition, understand your cosmic design, or transform your life and business to be more in alignment with who you are meant to be, this podcast is for you. Join me each week for insightful discussions, practical tips, and inspiring stories that will guide you on your journey to living your very best life. Don't forget to subscribe and follow me on YouTube or wherever you are listening to this podcast. Let's dive into this week's episode and see what juicy topic I have in store for you and help you on your journey of transformation, healing, and growth. Welcome to the Story of Spirit podcast. Hello and welcome back. I'm excited today to talk to you about intuition. And I think when we talk about intuition and psychic ability, there seems to be this differentiation in society. And I think people who are scared to call themselves psychic will call themselves an intuitive. And people who are psychic know that they're psychic and will call themselves psychic. But really, they're one and the same. And interestingly enough, I had a terrible reading this year from a lady who said, "I'm not psychic, I'm an intuitive." And I said, "Oh, can you explain the difference between that?" And she said, "Well, I connect to higher realms." I said, "Wow. So what do you think a psychic does?" Like, it's exactly the same thing. So being intuitive is actually your birthright, right? You are born intuitive. When you look at babies, they are just really in their energy, right? They are in their body and they're feeling what they're feeling and they're reacting to that. And they're also reacting to their environment. So we are energetic beings having this human experience. You are energy and physicality. You are an energetic being occupying a physical body. And this body is your skin car. It is your vessel for this lifetime. And let me tell you, when your soul looks at your body, that energy that is occupying this body is your soul. That soul looks at this body and goes, "Wow, I can't believe this is my body. I can't believe I get this as my vessel in this lifetime." And when you look at your body through your soul's eyes, you start to notice yourself very differently, right? You see yourself possibly as a friend would see you in terms of how gorgeous are you truly, right? All your lumps, all your bumps, all your scars, all your stretch marks, they're all evidence that you have lived life, that you have fully lived this life. And, when you pass at the end of your life and you take your last breath, you now become fully energy. And that energy is your vitality, right? It beats your heart. It's a synapse of your brain waves, your synapse of your nervous system. It's your feeling. There's an electricity that flows through your body, and that is your spirit. That's the energy of your spirit. And that spirit then, when you take your last breath, it is cohesive, it is conscious, and it just steps into the world of energy. And there's lots of breakthroughs in science now, research and peer-reviewed studies take time, right? Take time. So one of the ways that science wants to quantify, if you can quantify it and you can measure it over and over and over again, then it's science, right? It's proven. So they're trying to prove the weight of the human soul, which is really, really cool. But lots of things happen in death, right? There's a lot of gases, a lot of liquids being, expelled from the body, lots of changes. And how do you weigh a body as it's passing away ethically, right? I mean, there's someone who loves that person that's probably in the room with them. They're probably being administered, medical care, and there's things going around, happening around that person as they're passing away, least of which is how much you weigh, right? So how do they do that? That's been a very delicate study, ongoing research that's been done, and I think that's fascinating. And then there's also this study in quantum physics, of energy, and how do we communicate with entities that have crossed to the other side, and how do we, as a medium, I do that all the time. I mean, I can just tap into our loved ones as they are willing to let themselves be known. So there is free will on this side of the veil and the other, right? Your loved ones have a free will in spirit, and they have the free will to come and say hi, or they're like, no, I'm busy doing something else, right? It doesn't always work as a medium. I just had a session the other day where I'm like, this is not feeling like it's working out properly. There's not a lot of flow. I'm going to give you the option whether you want to reschedule, or I'll refund you your money. And she's like, oh, we'll reschedule. I said, yeah, I just think it's just not a day, doesn't mean anything about me, doesn't mean anything about spirit, doesn't mean anything about you. It's just not the day that it's all clicking together. So it's interesting, that can happen too, because the energy of spirit, they have free will to whether they want to come or not too. So when you think about you as an energetic being having this human experience, you have these physical senses on your body, right? Your eyes, your nose, your mouth, your hands, your ears, and you have this beautiful skin, that can feel things, right? But that feeling and that perception is very, very small, right? It's only within a certain, part of the wavelengths of energy that we can actually perceive. Outside of those perceived wavelengths, there is lots of wavelengths that are higher in frequency and lower in frequency. Like, for example, we can't see microwaves, but we know they're there. They cook food, it can cook you, it can harm you. X-rays, we can't see X-rays, but they take a picture, they're moving through the air. And so those frequencies, those energy, that energy exists in our world, but we don't have the perception of it. A great example of this is dogs, right? Dogs can hear frequency that we can't. Our ears are just not equipped. Now, there are humans on this planet that have the ability to see sound, right? Or hear color. Like that is an actual thing. That's a scientific proven anomaly that's not available to everyone. So senses can cross over, and that then opens your mind to, well, what else is possible? Right? Isn't genius energy just the ability to do things in a different way, or do things better than the average population? And the more you do them, the better you get, right? So you are a radio antenna picking up frequency always. You're an energetic being living in an energetic world. Everything in this world is energy. So if it's solid and it you can put your hand on it and you can knock on it, it is then molecules that are vibrating very close together, but it is still energy, right? And then we have liquid, we have gases, going back to science in elementary school. So these molecules, as they're vibrating, there's a lot of space between molecules as well, right? If we were to just dry you out and make you all that you are physically without all the molecules and the air between, you actually aren't very heavy at all, right? The minerals and the stardust that you've made up of, it's all the energy in between the cells that are really creating the magic that is you. So this antenna that you are is always picking up the energy of the world around you, and this is intuition from an energetic or spiritual standpoint. So when you're picking up energy or information from the world around you, like, anyone remember a little thing called COVID, right? And you're out in the grocery stores and you could just feel the anxiety. You could cut it with a knife, right? I went up with my shields everywhere I went during COVID because I could feel everybody's anxiety. No one knew what to expect. And so there was this fear that was just permeating everything. And everybody was looking at each other going, do you have it? Do you have it? I mean, it's one of the worst things that happened is we almost kind of turned against each other, which I shocked. I was the voice of love going, no, everybody belongs. Everyone has choices. It's all okay. We're going to move through this together. And yes, many people did pass away. And there's a lot of grief. There's also a lot of grief with regards to the way people were treated, government policies, the fear of losing your housing, food, scarcity, overdose, all those things. And I'm going to definitely talk about that in another episode to do with grief. But this energy that was in the collective, this fear, we could feel it, right? Everywhere we were, we could feel it. And that energy is always around us and we're picking it up. And if you're not creating boundaries, if you're not understanding how energy works, you can start to feel anxious. You can start to have panic attacks. You can feel things that are from other people and think that they're yours, right? You are built to be in community. You are biologically wired to be in community with others, which means that you reflect your our surroundings. So we have mirror neurons. These are real facts, scientifically, biologically. We have mirror neurons that run the length of our spine, and we will mirror. We will start to biologically mirror the people we're around. So women, if you are hanging around other women for a long period of time, you will notice that your menstrual cycles will coordinate. They will start to synchronize, right? It's kind of like, when you run a metronome and you run a whole bunch of metronomes and you hear the tick, 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 tick. A metronome, for those of you who don't know, is when you're playing a piano and it keeps time. And if you play a whole bunch of them at the same time, they will all eventually synchronize. Same thing with a clock that has a pendulum. That pendulum, or that, I don't know what the name of the clock bottom is, like a grandfather clock, that swinging arm will actually coordinate with every clock around it at some point. So there's this synchronization that happens, and biologically, again, we're wired to be in connection with each other. So we will pick up on each other's cues, on each other's information. So you're getting information and becoming aware of information, but are you becoming aware of information consciously? And that is why I love to teach intuition development, because that is making the unconscious conscious. It is helping us to create boundaries, understanding this energy field that we live in. There is energy, even when we're in relationship with someone, we are plugged into them. We can feel what they feel. We can feel it in their body. And the more sensitive you are, the more you're going to feel what other people are experiencing. So if you don't have boundaries with that energy, with that feeling, you are going to start to feel very untethered. You feel everybody else's stuff. And again, anxiety can be very high because you're picking up the energy of things that are not your own. So many mediums who don't know that they're mediums, or many psychics that don't know that they're psychics, often will have high anxiety. Now, I want to just put a little medical caveat on that, is that not everyone who has anxiety are mediums or psychics. Okay. There is a high percentage that are, because they're picking up energy of their environment and they don't know what to do with it. And it's making them feel anxious. They can't understand what it is. And all the anxious people that come into intuition development who are budding mediums and come into my mediumship classes, they find that their anxiety goes 100% away. 100% away. It's the most amazing thing, because we're in the present moment, which is part of anxiety. And there's also this awareness of energy and the boundaries that you can keep and what you can say yes and no to in energy. Because you walk in the world of physicality and energy, you have power to say no to spirit. You have power to block out energy. You have power to set boundaries in energy, more than you probably even realize that you do. Right. So I wanted to go back to that anxiety piece. There is an actual anxiety diagnosis in psychology, and there is a possibility that you don't have enough, biological chemical receptors, or chemicals in your body that help you to feel normal, stabilized, not anxious. So sometimes it does require anti-anxiety medicine, and there is medical reasons for you to have anxiety too. So the one thing I definitely don't want is someone going, "Oh, my anxiety is because of spirit," and stop taking your anxiety pills. That is a no from me. You must always consult a doctor. And if you're doing any work that requires changes to your medication, that you're doing that with your practitioner, with your doctor, and not just making arbitrary decisions. There is physical reasons sometimes for medical things. And I 100% believe there's also emotional and energetic reasons for medical things too. So we need both, right? We need the holistic of both, not one over the other. We need both together. So something to think about if you have anxiety, is there something here that hasn't been addressed or understood within yourself that could give you an opportunity to look a little deeper into how you're perceiving energy and how are things working within you. So maybe a good idea to check out intuition development classes, mindfulness practices, breath work, meditation to help really calm your mind and come back into your body and know what is yours and what's not. And I do that in my intuition classes. We talk about energy, we understand boundaries. It's an experiential class. So you're actually doing the exercises. You have homework each week. It's a 4-week class and it is hands-on. You learn through hands-on. One of the things I absolutely never want with any of my classes is you come in and you take a class and then you leave and then you never touch the material again. Like, I like to teach things that actually help you in your life to better your life, practical spirituality. Like, let's put this stuff into motion and not just go to church and hear about it and then go and live your life for the rest of the week. Like, let's actually embody these practices and what I know to be true, because we are living in this energetic world as humans. And the more that you know, the better your life gets. You can even use these tools for a better life, for more flow, for more energy, better relationships. Like, it really is so wonderful when you look at what all of this is, on a bigger scale. From a psychological standpoint, there is this theory in psychology about intuition is your subconscious picks up about 80% of what you perceive. Only 20% of what you perceive is actually conscious. So that 80% that's being picked up, your mind is sifting through so much information. And if you're neurodivergent, especially ADHD or ADD, you have the ability to sift through large sums of information at high rates of speed. And you come out of those high rates of speed with just a knowing or a decision, or you should do this or not, or something comes to your awareness, and there's no rational idea or thought as to why that is. You just know this is the decision, or you have to do this. And you can't explain it because the majority of why you could explain it is in your subconscious. So the theory there on the psychology standpoint is that your intuition is really your subconscious telling you what's right and what's not right, because you rationally can't think of why it is, because that part is not conscious to you. And what I like to say to all of that is, who cares? Right? Who cares? If it's from your subconscious, if it's from the energy, it's from spirit, it's helping you live your life, and you have information that's available to you and you don't know why, but it's right. Right. And that's the key, is you always want to use discernment. You can't be like, I just have this nudge that I need to stop taking my medication. And the doctor's like, what? Like, please don't do that. I have a friend who's a psychologist, and when we first met, she was very skeptical of me. Understandably, psychologists don't really tend to like psychics because they're like, "Oh, you're a bunch of hoo-hoos," and I was like, "Well, I'm not really," But she got to know me, and she learned what a magical human I am, and I love her so much. And she told me why eventually, as we became close friends. She said she had not hers, but a colleague of hers had a patient, a psychologist, and the patient was having a really hard time with managing her depression and anxiety. And she started to see a holistic healer who was a psychic. And the healer said, you don't need to take your medicine. This is actually spirit trying to talk to you. And the week after, she threw herself off of a bridge. Awful. Like, absolutely awful. And she had 3 young kids. Like, this is the stuff that really boils my blood, because I want to be here to talk about responsible, ethical discernment with intuition, with using our gifts and talents, with the holistic side, using the practical side, and it coming together to create a good life, right? So we want to prevent this kind of stuff from happening. And so I always like to advocate for discernment, right? So I hope that gives you a new perspective on intuition, and it inspires you to take an intuition class from someone who is reputable and comes with good referrals. If you're interested in taking my Intuition 101 class, please reach out to me on my email, on my social media, wherever you have found me. You'll find links to contact me in the show notes of this podcast. And I'd be so happy and excited to help you on your intuitive journey, because I 100% know when you have that tool, you are uneffable with. You really are. You just have that inner knowing and that strength and that love and trust of self that you can't you can't shake. Like it's going to be there to lead you down the path that you need to be. So thank you for being here, and I'm wishing you a wonderful intuitive day wherever this finds you. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode of the Story of Spirit podcast. I hope you found inspiration and practical insights to help you align with your soul-led purpose and live a life that sets your soul on fire. If you enjoyed today's podcast, please subscribe to the podcast, leave a review, and please share it with an aligned friend that you know can really get the most out of this podcast. Your support helps us reach more listeners and continues to provide valuable content. I sincerely appreciate every share, and it is how most people find me. It is because caring people like you share me with them at the right and perfect time. For more resources, insights, and to connect with our community, please visit www.sheetalstory.com or follow us on Instagram at sheetalstory. Remember, your journey to more alignment and vibrant life is just the beginning, and I am here to support you every step of the way. Until next time, stay aligned, stay inspired, and keep shining your light. This is Sheetal Story signing off from the Story of Spirit podcast. Here's the legal ease that's required by our lawyers. This podcast and the YouTube channel represents the opinions of Sheetal Story and her guests to the show. The content should not be taken as medical, psychological, or financial advice. This series is informational and entertainment purposes only. Because each person is so unique, please consult your healthcare professional, your mental health dream team, your financial advisor, or anyone else that's an expert in the field in where you are thinking of making big choices in your life.